Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théières, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma fleur sous la pluie de novembre, tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goët.
The intrigue surrounding about-to-be drafted quarterback Josh Allen from Wyoming has taken a dark turn. He tweeted racially offensive stuff as a high school student, several times using the N-word. Allen told Chris Mortensen this morning, quote, "I'm so embarrassed. I didn't sleep much last night. I take responsibility for it. If I could go back in time, I would never have done this, and I apologize for what I did. Just embarrassing, and I'm not proud of it," close quote. Frank, how much will or should this affect Allen's draft stock tonight?
You know, I thought Louis Riddick brought up a great point on ESPN earlier today when he said teams know about this already. So they probably knew about this a month ago, maybe 2 months ago. So I don't think it's going to impact his draft status. Where it's going to impact him, and he was only 15, 16 years old. When you're a kid, you get it. You do dumb things. Everyone understands that. But when he walks into a locker room, there are going to be some guys on the team that want nothing to do with it. There'll be some guys that probably won't even be aware of the story, and other guys that will say, you know what, I'm willing to give him a chance. I think that's what general managers, head coaches are concerned about. How is the quarterback of my team, the most important position in all of sports,
going to lead all these guys?
Exactly.
70% of whom in that league are
that's right,
are of color. I agree with you there, so I'm gonna go to a new place. So we don't think the draft, neither one of I agree with you. The draft stock probably won't be affected that much. So the NFL executives in this particular league, club executives, it's okay to keep out a guy for kneeling to protest things that he thinks are wrong in his country by taking a knee or not observing the national anthem. But it's okay to take a kid who's uttered the N-word publicly on Twitter. But so all of a sudden, their sensibilities aren't offended by that. Everybody, all these guys who, between want to make America great again or want to make the NFL great by what they do with the anthem.
But you know it's different, though.
Why?
Because we're talking a 15, 16-year-old kid.
That's not my point.
As opposed to a grown man.
I'm not even upset with the kid. I'm not. I'm talking about these pious, mightier than mighty owners and executives who look at Colin Kaepernick as poison. Okay? But this doesn't offend them? So Colin Kaepernick's actions offend them, but hearing or seeing the N-word, and I believe you, they all knew this happened. Their intel didn't fail them, but that doesn't offend them.
But Kaepernick, though, there were teams like Baltimore that were interested.
But
and right now we're hearing Seattle might be interested.
But they don't have the stones to actually hire him and put him on the roster. They're going to draft this kid tonight. Somebody's going to draft him.
But you're going to draft him to be your starter. Right now, if you're bringing in Colin Kaepernick, what's he going to be on your team?
My point is,
I understand it, but what's he going to be on your team?
The same people that are offended by this thing are not offended by this thing. That's.
Well, we don't know if they're offended by it.
I doubt it.
Okay.
Not as much as I am.
It is Monday, the 30th of April of 2018, and you are in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. I am your chef de cuisine, Justice Putnam, and our daily special is River City Hash Mondays. Yes, the menu does change by the seasons, and, well, at least the basic ingredients. But, maybe it might get tweaked daily. Also, just from what is available in the cornucopia of abundance out there. Oh, yes. Well, That was Michael Wilbon at the top there. So he's got no patience for NFL owners who are clutching pearls over Colin Kaepernick. But, drafting a guy who used the N-word on Twitter when he was in high school is just, it's A-okay. Especially if you can maybe mold that kid into, the perfect American citizen, as envisioned by the New World Order. And the New World Order has a really weird mix of Teutonic and Cyrillic. Really weird. But it is the last bastion of white hope. And it will be the promised land real soon. Demographically, the kind of people that fear others will be such a small number that we can probably put them on a boat. Maybe one of those, love boat things. A big love boat. And they can get shipped over there, and they can read the manual in which their new promised land lives by, a creed in which they are there for the benefit of all, those high and mighty. And it is a small manual, but succinct, and it is called to serve man. And all those going over to the promised land where the land of milk and honey and the fatted calf don't realize that it's a cookbook. I keep telling everybody, Putin has his own chef, and that chef cooks up all sorts of weird things that send people to the gulag. Yeah, that's where he tries out his gruel. And then if it is pretty good, then he knows how to scale up and use it in his catering business, because that's what Putin's chef does. All right, folks, let him go. If they want to go, let him go, because there's no convincing them. I read a poll. Ipsos Reuters apparently has a poll that millennials are ditching the Democrats. Oh, because the Democrats just are. What the hell is that? Are you kidding me? Is this like another one of those deals where we're supposed to be angry at the millennials for not being, cogent? Maybe. Or it could be the result of a lack of civic education and what it means to really be an American, rather than, I grab mine, screw you. So, somewhere along the line, people may be embracing the I want to grab mine, screw you attitude. So, I don't know. Weird poll. For some reason, many of these millennials, according to this poll, they say that, we're not moving to the Republicans. But it's funny, the testimonials of some of the millennials in their low to mid-30s who say, when I was young, I thought basically life was, we're supposed to give a helping hand to everybody. But then as I got older, I saw the world as it really was. And then I became aware of my Second Amendment rights. I was married to my husband, an ex-Marine, and he convinced me that, having a gun is necessary for all of the zombie killers out there coming to get us wherever they are. And then I had kids, and I said, well, if I'm having kids, I don't want anybody else to avoid having kids. They're going to have kids too. And so I became anti-abortion because of it. And, I got to grab mine and screw you. And, if I lose, then everybody else has to lose. And if everybody wants to be equal, that's when I really learned. If everybody wants to be equal, it means I'm giving up something. I'm giving up something to somebody who is really less than me. Just look at them. So, is that the prevailing attitude? But that is somewhat of the testimonials. Gussied up a little bit, but you know me. I'm at the gist of what they're saying. I might be the comedian, actually, written out of the original contract that got Michelle Wolf into the correspondence there. They signed her up, but in the statement afterwards, they they disappeared her. Well, and I got to tell you something else. This letter that the board sent out, the board of the White House Correspondents Association sent out apologizing for this terrible misjustice she was so crass. We're sorry. The unifying principle is this idea that the press now is supposed to embrace, and that's called a unifying civility. Let me tell you, when you're reading unifying civility, it really, it rolls off the eyes and even the tongue. Try it on the tongue. It sounds better in the original Cyrillic. With apologies to Molly Ivins, please. Okay, unifying civility, that is not the press job, all right? Really. An adversarial civility, possibly. We could have something like that, but I'm not going to cry these crocodile tears when Sarah Huckabee Sanders is called a liar, which she is. She's not misstating the facts. She doesn't have alternative facts. She's lying. And while at the same time, Donald Trump is in Michigan whipping up a crowd with racial animus, saying, are there any Hispanics here? And if there are, and, this is what the crowd is getting. And if any are, they're going to get the crap beat out of them. So no. This is exactly how it was described as it would happen and what would happen to the press. And there would be, from what we used to have, the press shouting out questions, like the scrum, to a high school pep rally, and reporters essentially falling over themselves to be the good kid. Can I be the good kid? Will you call on me, please? Okay, fine. If that's the way they want to have it, then I suppose that's why we're here. And we are Resistance Radio. And I better tell you what else we're going to be attending to today, because we're going to touch upon, well, some of that dinner. We can't avoid it. Well, on the rest of the menu here in the Bistro Cafe, part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, Sarah Huckabee Sanders wasted no time in proving her critics' point. Yeah. Hardly even had to go to sleep and get up. She just went ahead and says, oh, yeah, okay, you'll see. The Trump administration's hostility toward the free press gets worse as the DOJ removes the need for a free press section in its guidelines manual. Oh, we don't need a free press. Oh, did you know? I know. We reported on this ever so briefly when it happened. But the State Department has removed from their mission statement democracy. We're not about democracy anymore. No, we don't want to spread democracy. We want people to vote and have equality and due process. That is stricken from the State Department's mission statement. And now the Department of Justice essentially says there's no need for a free press. Now we can incarcerate them and probably make money with the private prison, since there's all those really unpaid bloggers too. Okay. And speaking of which, Tucker Carlson is very upset that women are allowed to report on women candidates. Yeah. He's kind of like an unpaid blogger. He's very rich, Swanson TV dinner fortune. Boy. After the break, we move to the chef's table, where Nordic scientists warn the European Union over anti-bacterial-resistant superbugs. Ooh. And there are unusual eruptions at the world's largest active geyser in Yellowstone Park. And so it begins. All that and more on West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit. If you go to the bottom of our homepage at netrootsradio.com, you'll find to the rightish of the page the chat room link, and you can go in there and chat all day if you'd like. Our rowing girl, Kelly Lincoln, does monitor that. Now, she doesn't monitor it 24/7 because she's not a bot. She's flesh and blood. She's got to get some rest and actually make money, too, to pay the bills, darn it. And but that is one way to engage with us, and oftentimes in real time. How fun is that? If you look to the leftish of the page from the chat room link, there are the contribute, donate buttons, and thank you for your generosity. The lights are blinking, and they're blinking in their proper arrangement, which means that the bills continue to get paid, and you are an instrumental part of that, because we are truly unable to do this without you, and thank you for your generosity. You can follow Netroots Radio on Twitter at Netroots Radio. Netroots Radio is on Facebook if you go there, and some people still do. And you can follow me on Twitter at Justice Putnam. Fancy that. And I'm also on Daily Co's as Justice Putnam, and links for West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, the show notes and links are all there on Daily Co's on my diary that I post about 10 minutes before showtime. Mm-hmm. Okay, and podcasts of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy can be had by way of Spreaker, Stitcher, TuneIn, iTunes, etc., etc., etc. Oh, and one other thing too, music for West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy is provided by the always lovely and always, well, I got to tell you, very sophisticated and loving Frances Livings. That's right. She's great. So check out her work. Links for her work are provided on the diary that I post on Daily Coast. So check her out. Thank you. Okay, so let's start off here. This first article here in the Bistro Cafe part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy is by Tommy Christopher out of Share Blue Media. Reporters defended Press Secretary Sarah Huckabee Sanders from legitimate criticism during the annual White House Correspondents Association dinner. And she repaid them hours later by scolding one of their colleagues for doing his job. When comedian Michelle Wolf devoted 90 seconds of her act to criticizing or critiquing Sanders' lies, reporters like the New York Times' Maggie Haberman leapt to the press secretary's defense. But according to Haberman's newspaper, Wolf's jokes did not appear to faze Sanders. The Times reported that many journalists approached Ms. Sanders in the Hilton Ballroom to express sympathy in the immediate aftermath of Ms. Wolf's monologue. And at an NBC party later that evening, an after party, that Matt Schlapp and his wife had to leave the dinner because those elites, those terrible elites, they're so insulting. They are so full of hate. Well, they left early, really, because they wanted to beat the traffic to the after party. Give me a break, this guy. Well, so at the NBC after party that Matt Schlapp was at, Miss Sanders appeared in good spirits, according to the New York Times, as reporters swarmed her. I swear to God, she's getting a standing ovation when she walks into the press briefing today, or whatever that thing's called that she does. They're going to give her a standing ovation, and I'm telling you, to serve man's going to be handed out to all the White House press corps. They know that she's lying, but they just want to make sure that they have access to her lies. And if you call her a liar, in fact, somebody, who was it? It was I apologize. I set the show, pretty much last night. I'm sorry. Okay, I sometimes do that. Set the show and then try to add new stuff that comes in. But some pundit or politician insists that the only The only people that should be, it's not the press's job to call the administration or a politician a liar. That's not the press's job. Apparently, according to this big brain, it's the political opponent's job to call them a liar. Well, a political opponent did call Trump and Sarah Sanders a liar. And look what happened to her. Sarah Sanders getting a standing ovation at the press briefing. Mark my word. I'm telling you. Paper further noted that she even took time to chastise one journalist for asking a question at a news conference that she disliked. So everybody's swarming her at the party going, "Oh, Sarah, are you okay? That was just so terrible what she said about you. Oh. And Sarah with her, that squinty little smoky eye that she's got. And that's not about being a fat lesbian softball mother. Whoever, Liz Mayer came up with that one. That apparently smoky eye is code for fat lesbian softball mother. And I'm thinking, code? We don't work by codes where, we know the Lee Atwater codes. But as Liz Mayer just really divulged, and probably she may just be tried for leaking classified information. That unbeknownst to us in right-wing circles, smoky eye is code for fat lesbian softball mothers. Huh. Who knew? But they project, don't they? Don't they? Well, Sarah Sanders still had that little smoky eye squint, which she pointed out this reporter who asked this terrible question at a presser that she basically expected everybody to behave. Now, kids, we're going to be going in, and a bunch of Baltic states are going to be here, and we don't want any rambunctious behavior. Now, you keep it down. So, on an April 3rd press conference with Baltic leaders, Hunter Walker, when she started scolding the reporter, he raised his hand. "That's me. That was me." Well, at that April 3rd presser with Baltic leaders, Walker shouted, "Do you have any response to Stormy Daniels?" Now, of course, Walker was referring to actress Stormy Daniels, as if we don't know that, who Trump now acknowledges having participated in a deal with in order to secure her silence about their affair. Asking such a question may have been embarrassing for Trump in the United States, but it was Walker's job to do so. Sanders' attack on Walker was completely in character for her. Tommy Christopher here is specifying. And I agree when he says, but it is still disturbing, as is the way reporters behaved toward her by swarming her at the party and offering sympathy over valid criticism. "We're sorry, we should have just said that you're the harbinger of alternative facts. And then you're on to other alternative facts. We're sorry, can we genuflect and kiss the ring?" Sanders' penchant for lying is well documented, and reporters should be calling out those lies, not defending or dismissing them. It is reporters like Hunter Walker, attacked just for doing their jobs, who really deserves the press sympathy. Okay, next offering here at the Bistro Cafe, part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, River City Hash Mondays, is another article out of Share Blue Media by Tommy Christopher. Trump has seen a drop in America's standing as a safe place for a free press, and his Justice Department has gone so far as to remove a section on the need for a free press in its manual. On Sunday, BuzzFeed reported that it had been tracking changes to the DOJ's U.S. Attorney's Manual after Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein ordered a review of the document. BuzzFeed noted the removal of the entire subsection entitled Need for a Free Press and Public Trial. Prior to its removal, that section said that, quote, careful weight must be given in each case to the constitutional requirements of a free press and public trials, as well as the right of the people in a constitutional democracy to have access to information about the conduct of law enforcement, prosecutors, and courts consistent with the individual rights of the accused. That is now gone. Don't worry about these trifling matters. They're just quaint notions from another time. This is Jeff Sessions pulling this down. He wants to keep his job. He's telling Big Daddy, hey, Big Daddy, look, I'm okay. Look what I got for you. I brought you a little bit. I got your gift. Come on, open up the little box. Come on. Look what I got for you. Michael Cohen is not Fredo in this scenario. Please. That subsection still appears on the Our Media Mission page for the Western District of Virginia, at least for now. The DOJ removed the section as well as others after Rosenstein ordered the review in November, but the reporting of it comes at a notable time. Reporters Without Borders just released its study showing that the U.S. slipped to 45th worldwide on press freedom. And earlier this year, Trump made the Committee to Protect Journalists list of top press oppressors. The White House has yet to give an explanation for this change to the manual, but Trump's hostility toward the free press was evident even before he took office and has escalated consistently since then. And under Rosenstein, and Attorney General Jeff Sessions, the DOJ is apparently unwilling to push back. Some members of the press have performed admirably in resisting Trump's efforts to attack and undermine them. But this weekend also saw the shameful spectacle of reporters defending Trump's press secretary's habitual dishonesty. I might also add that at Trump's Nuremberg rally in Michigan, he got the crowd whipped up into another frenzy to the point where the press that were there, their lives were threatened once again, and the frothing crowd of deplorables called them the enemy of the state, and there's going to be some convenient killings of reporters and news people. Just convenient. Here in the Bistro Cafe, part of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, River City Hash Mondays, is an article by Carolyn Orr out of Share Blue Media. Now, Tucker Carlson's so concerned, very concerned, that the media is stacking the deck against men by letting women reporters cover women candidates. Now, does that mean, Tucker, that men candidates cannot be covered by men reporters? He doesn't say, but he really feels that the aggrieved parties in all of these situations are men, even though it shows that women reporters are vastly outnumbered by, you would guess, men. And it's quite weird how that is, isn't it? And it's also odd that of all the women reporters following the Clinton campaign, the most vociferous voices and the ones who were published the most were men. And those men just happened to recently be fired because of what? Their sexist, misogynistic nature. Who knew? All right, let's get to our break, and we'll come back and go through weather from around the world, and then finish up with the stories that we've curated for you today back there at the chef's table. You are listening to West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, and we will be right back.
You are listening to netrootsradio.com.
Please hang up and try again.
From a point at sea to the circles of your mind, a new force is at work for planetary transformation. New radio for a new Earth.
This is Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. This week, The Sound of Silence. In the best alien invasion horror pick to come along in a while, A Quiet Place will take its place as a genre gem. As we join the Abbott family on their isolated rural farm, we quickly learn that quietude is now required for survival. Through glimpses of newspaper clippings pinned up in the Abbott's basement shop, we learn only the basics, that creatures, who we first see for ourselves only in fleeting shadow, have taken over the world and are now on their way to eliminating humanity. They're blind and hunt by sound, and before the opening credits, we see what happens when a loud sound is made by the Abbott's youngest child. Since there's little dialogue, director and co-star John Krasinski, in a role about as far from The Office as you can imagine, moves the action with a dynamic score and effects mix containing the cues for life-and-death situational awareness. With uncanny effect, he also uses the close-up on facial expressions that have to substitute for dialogue here. The always great Emily Blunt and child stars Noah Jupe and the deaf in real-life Millicent Simmonds shine at conveying every emotion with next to no words. Some films like this would aspire to greater things with a side plot. A Quiet Place actually functions as well as a family drama as it does as a horror story. Simon's character Regan blames herself for her youngest brother's fate and is a fiercely independent adolescent, and Blunt's character Evelyn, in a lesser film, would be pregnant for all the wrong reasons. Here, it's because she and her family are not just survivors, they're the symbol that humanity's not done. And Lee, whose tinkering might just lead somewhere, ends up in a situation that most parents would call their darkest speculation. You shouldn't miss A Quiet Place, but enjoy your popcorn quietly. This has been Take Two Movie Review. I'm Mike Friend. Catch up with us at take2moviereview.com and feed us back on our page on YouTube.
Language matters. For example, the words that corporate and government officials use to report on the health of America's economy can either make clear to us commoners what's going on, or hide and even lie about the reality we face. Consider the most common measurement used by officials and the media to tell us whether our economy is zooming or sputtering: Wall Street's index of stock prices. The media literally spews out the Dow Jones average of stock prices every hour, as though everyone is waiting breathlessly for that update. But wait, nearly all stock is owned by the richest 10% of Americans. So the Dow Jones average says nothing about the economic condition of the 90% majority of Americans. For us, and for the true economic health of America as a whole, we need to know the Doug Jones average. How are Doug and Dolores doing? Well, as we've seen, stock prices keep rising to new highs, while wages and living standards of the middle class and poor majority have been held down by the same corporate and political leaders telling us to keep our eye on the Dow. To disguise this decline, they play another dirty language trick on us when they issue the monthly unemployment report. Currently, with the unemployment rate down to 4%, they tell us America's job market is booming. But wait again. That only reflects the number of jobs, not the dollar value of those jobs in terms of wages and benefits. Having lots of people doing poorly paid work is hardly a healthy job market. Notice that they don't measure the stock market by the number of stocks out there, but by their value. And they should measure our job market the same way in order to give an honest picture of how Doug and Dolores are doing. This is Jim Hightower saying, of course, they'd only do that if they gave a damn about all of us Dougs and Doloreses. And that speaks volumes about their bias for stock-owning elites.
Need an antidote to the progressive blues? Want some good news about how grassroots folks are rebelling against the corporate powers and winning? Well, here's an easy-to-swallow pill for you, the Hightower Lowdown. Hightower's monthly newsletter will give you the lowdown, even as it lifts you up. It's 4 pages a month, jam-packed with facts you can use, actions you can take, and Jim's own Texas humor, all for only $15 a year. To become a lowdowner, go to hightowerlowdown.org.
This is Solidarity News on Radio Labour.
This is a Radio Labour report recorded on Monday, April 30th, 2018. I'm Mark Boulanger. Trade unionists around the world are holding demonstrations in support of the imprisoned former president of Brazil, Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva. Lula, as he is known, was Brazil's president from 2003 to 2011. Because of term limits, he was not eligible to run for a third term. Just recently, once again eligible, he has been running for president and was high in the polls for the October election. The 72-year-old Lula was arrested in early April and brought to prison to begin serving a 12-year sentence for corruption. The corruption charge is seen by many as a way Brazil's right wing can stop Lula from ever being president again. One of the demonstrations held to demand the release of Lula was held in Geneva. Walter Sanchez, the General Secretary of the Global Union Industrial, spoke at the rally.
2 years ago already, because it was foreseen that the coup wouldn't stop until they get him to this. For us to stop the coup d'etat, we have to release Lula.
Another labor leader at the demonstration in support of Lula was David Boys, the Deputy General Secretary of the Global Union Public Services International.
Our main concern is that it is the rich of Brazil who are taking over once again, and we know what their practices are. More money to the top, nothing to the bottom. Viva Lula! Lula vive! Lula vive! Lula vive!
Representing Industrial Global Union at the demonstration was Deputy General Secretary Kemal Özkan.
We are just in front of a Brazilian mission in Geneva. We are here as the whole Global Union movement and just expressing our outrage, our concern, our demand to the representation of the country. We want to see Lula free. We want to see Lula running for president.
Also supporting the release of Lula is the International Trade Union Confederation. The ITUC represents national union centers such as the Ghana Trades Union Congress. Sharon Burrow is the ITUC's General Secretary.
What's happened in Brazil is a travesty of justice. It's the breakdown of law and order and a fundamental attack on democracy. When you look at the influence of the media determined to jail an innocent man in order to stop him running for president, this is simply wrong. The trade union movement, our members around the world stand with you, Lula, with the CUT, with the unions in Brazil, with civil society, for justice, for an end to this travesty, for the right for democratic process. We will globalise this protest. We stand with Lula.
Before being arrested and brought to prison, Lula addressed a crowd to say he would surrender to the authorities. He said, "No, I am not hiding. I am going to prison to see their faces so they know I am not afraid, so they know that I am not going to run away, and so they know I am going to prove my innocence. They need to know that."
Viva Lula! Lula vive! Lula vive! Lula vive!
Viva Lula!
Lula libre!
Lula libre!
Lula libre! Lula libre!
And that's it. International labor news you can use. Radio Labor's newscasts are available on its website, Facebook, iTunes, union websites, and community radio stations. Follow us on Twitter at Radio Labor. I'm Mark Boulanger. Thank you for listening. And remember, it's all about global solidarity.
From United Nations headquarters in New York, I'm Luke Vargas with your World in 2 minutes. The leaders of North and South Korea pledged to pursue an end to their 67-year war and denuclearize the Korean peninsula during historic face-to-face talks on Friday at the demilitarized zone separating the two countries. With an eye toward eventually unifying the Korean peninsula, Kim and Moon agreed to carry out disarmament in a phased manner, establish military communication, and create a maritime peace zone in the West Sea waters that saw deadly clashes between the two countries as recently as 2010. Christopher Green, senior advisor on the Korean Peninsula for the International Crisis Group, told Talk Media News it's important to separate out the concrete from the amorphous within a long list of promises made by Kim and Moon.
We've seen an awful lot of empty promises in inter-Korean meetings in the past. Concrete steps, on the other hand, are perhaps more important at this stage because trust is in very short supply.
Among the more concrete actions pledged on Friday, Green noted promised meetings between North and South Korean generals next month, the creation of a standing collaborative office to settle policy disputes, and a pledge by Moon to visit the North Korean capital of Pyongyang this fall.
A system of regular meetings between the leaders of the two Koreas would be a very welcome shift.
That prospect of further talks seems more possible now than at past summits between the Koreas in 2000 and 2007, since South Korean President Moon Jae-in is still in the beginning of his presidential term. But despite the amicable atmosphere characterizing Friday's summit, it's Kim that will have to see what concessions are in store for him until after he meets with President Trump.
For Kim Jong-un, there weren't that many benefits, economic benefits, in today's summit, but it's a stepping stone towards getting benefits later on, and I'm sure he will see it that way.
Luke Vargas, the United Nations.
Thank you for accompanying us here to the Chef's Table of West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. River City Hash Mondays. That's right. Okay, so that is our daily special. We have a special every day. Every day. Except for Saturday and Sunday because we take that off then. Okay, now that we are at the Chef's Table, let's begin with weather from around the world. And we always begin weather from around the world here along the banks of the Rogue River and the Rogue River Valley of Southern Oregon, on the west coast of the continental United States of America, where it is currently 48 degrees. We should be getting up to a high of maybe 62 or so. We did have quite a bit of rain over the weekend, and that's good because I planted some alyssum and marigolds and zinnia and blue bonnets, and we'll see how that goes. What else? Oh, I put some peppers, bell peppers in, and my cucumbers, they're starting to happen. Yes, it's springtime. I hope I keep up on the soil I need to keep covering the baby red potatoes and the yellow Yukon baby potatoes that I am growing. They want to reach for the sun. Yes, so I hope I should get a pretty good crop from that. And my tomatoes, the heirloom tomatoes that I planted, they're happening. Strawberries too. I have a couple of heirloom strawberries in, as well as the not so heirloom types, because we like strawberries. Alrighty, it looks like we're gonna be, like I said, a high of around 62 or so. Our low will be in the mid 40s tonight. Looks like we will be drying out and winds currently are out of the south at about 1 to 2 miles per hour, increasing out of the north-northwest at 5 to 10 miles per hour, and then out of the west-northwest tonight at 5 to 10 miles per hour. And we'll be pulling in that air off the ocean. Why not? Let's do that. And okay, so that will be good. It looks like like I said, we'll be drying out for the next foreseeable future. Temperatures will be slowly rising. Tomorrow they'll be in the mid-60s. Then by Wednesday, they'll be in the low 80s. Okay. Air quality right now at this moment is good at 16 parts per million. Pressure is holding steady at 30.1 inches. Visibility is 8 miles. And humidity is 82%. Yeah, a little muggy. Okay, weather from around the world is brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. These people planted these purchased personal weather stations somewhere on their property, and these people live around the world. London is 46 and mostly cloudy. Paris is 42 with rain. Rome is 68 and partly cloudy. Kiev is 80 degrees and fair. Kabul is 74 degrees with showers in the vicinity. Bomb showers are just the regular wet kind. I hope it's the wet kind. Hong Kong is 74 and partly cloudy. Tokyo is 65 and fair. Sydney, Australia is 57 degrees and clear. San Francisco, California is 50 degrees and mostly cloudy. And New York is 50 degrees Fahrenheit. And, and mostly cloudy. And it looks like you have a weather advisory, a small craft advisory because of quite a bit of wind, and you will be cooler today, springtime in New York. And that is weather from around the world brought to you by people's personal weather stations that they purchased. These people planted these personal purchased weather stations somewhere on their property, and these people live around the world. Okay, first article here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy, River City Hash Mondays, because we draw on the world. You think it's just about the West Coast? Let me tell you a little secret about the West Coast. The West Coast is the world. The whole world is along the West Coast. So that's why we're here. And everybody likes to come here, too. Because when the big one happens, I hate to inform you, but everything east of the Rockies is slipping into the Atlantic. Okay? We've known that for a long time. We are not slipping into the Pacific. We're going to have this big land barrier called the Rocky Mountains, and everything east of that will be under some sort of sea. You'll see. Mark my words. Okay, this article is by Elizabeth Kirk out of the EU Observer. You never know when life is going to change. After a brutal virus wipes out most of the Scandinavian population, two young siblings embark on a perilous search for safety. That is the premise for a new Netflix series, The Rain, launching on Friday, May 4th. It is pure science fiction, but not completely without a connection to reality. In the real world, staff at Nordic hospitals are fighting hard to stop antibiotic-resistant bacteria from spreading. Let's see. I will be brutally mispronouncing the Swedish and Norwegian names, so I do apologize. There's a hospital, Nyköpings, Lärasätet, a hospital in Sweden in March, canceled operations and closed infected sections to stop a superbug named VRE from infecting patients. As many as 250 patients received a letter from the hospital urging them to test if they carry the bacteria after being treated at the hospital. The hospitals do not control the infection yet, reported Sweden's public broadcaster last Thursday. The first VRE case was discovered in Huddinge in northern Sweden before the turn of the year, and about 60 patients have now been infected in the Stockholm region. At the Huckabee hospital, 44 patients have been reportedly infected, and the resistant intestinal bacterium has spread further between several hospitals and infected patients also in Umeå, Örebro, plus Huckabee, and for several months. No patient has been seriously ill until now. Most people do not notice that they have been infected, but patients with weakened health may succumb to serious infections such as blood poisoning. The superbug VRE is a much bigger problem, according to Nordic researchers, speaking at a seminar at the European Parliament organized by the Nordic Council last Wednesday. In Europe alone, 25,000 people are estimated to die yearly because of multi-resistant bacteria. And less than a century ago, pneumonia often led to death, but the risk was dramatically reduced after the first antibiotic, penicillin, was discovered in 1928. 1928. Not even 100 years. Right on 100 years, and they're all coming back. Antibiotics have been used widely since, from human medicine to animal food, and saved millions of lives. But now the risk of dying from bacterial infection is growing again because bacteria develop resistance to those antibiotics, and when people don't use the antibiotics properly, when they spread surfaces with weakened solutions of, diluted solutions of antibiotic material, and bacteria survives it, and then it's stronger than that. And we've just been so irresponsible putting it in our feed, our animal feed. Okay, well, the risk of dying from bacterial infection is growing again because, of course, bacteria develop a resistance. A world without effective antibiotics is the greatest threat to healthcare worldwide. Antibiotics reduce mortality rates and prolong life, but now no new antibiotics have been developed for the past 30 years. It's getting dangerous because we cannot offer the citizens anything more, a doctor at the hospital said. Okay, almost all production of antibiotics has been outsourced from Europe to other parts of the world since it is not technically very complicated to produce antibiotics, and the old patents have run out. We've outsourced almost all production to India and China, but that leaves us with a security problem, and sometimes we see a shortage of deliveries, Warren Dagbarreled, professor at Oslo University Hospital. We may consider insourcing of the old-fashioned production in Europe, he suggested. We all live with 2 kilos of bacteria in our body, and we make lots of good use for us. And, well, that bacteria does, but bacteria can replicate themselves in 17 minutes. So we can never win the war against bacteria. We also need to promote rational use of antibiotics. And I keep saying, we gotta. It is estimated that 60% of all infectious diseases stem from animals, but traveling is also contributing to infection and spread of bacteria. And it is true. I mean, we're able to go vast miles in just several hours where, things were kind of locked in because of our inability to travel. So Nordic has a 12-step plan to fight against antibiotic resistance. The strategy aims to limit the use of antibiotics, stop the spread of antimicrobial resistance, and secure incentives for the development of new health technology, innovative medicines, and vaccines. Maybe if we got rid of, maybe the profit motive in this instance, that we might be able to, at least stave off this assault. Maybe that would be nice.
Je te donne ce mon amour pour la vie entière. La promesse de me trouver à tes genoux. Aussitôt que tu m'appelles, rester toujours fidèle. C'est tout, c'est tout. Je te donne tous mes printemps, mes étés de mer, mes automnes quand les feuilles tombent partout. Si ce n'est pas une bonne affaire, je te donne tous mes hivers.
Okay, last article here at the chef's table at West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy is by an anonymous worker bee or worker bees at Reuters. The world's largest active geyser has erupted 3 times in the past 6 weeks at Yellowstone National Park, including once this week, in a pattern that is unusual, but they're saying not at all indicative of a more destructive volcanic eruption brewing beneath Wyoming. Yeah, they got to say that so we don't panic, especially since this is just like in Jaws. The tourist season has started. We can't scare people away during tourist season. Steamboat Geyser, which can shoot water as high as 300 feet into the air, erupted on March 15th, April 19th, and then on Friday. The last time it erupted 3 times in a year was in 2003. Well, I would have erupted then, too. That's when we started the war. Damn it. The last time it erupted prior to March was more than 3 years ago in September 2014. There is nothing to indicate that any sort of volcanic eruption is imminent. Michael Pollan, the scientist in charge for the observatory, said in an email, was he still at the observatory or was he flying the hell out of there? I want to know. This year's eruptions have been smaller than usual steamboat eruptions, but the 2 in April were about 10 times larger than an eruption at Old Faithful. In terms of the amount of water discharged, he said, geologists have not pinpointed a reason for the latest series of eruptions, but say they could indicate a thermal disturbance in the geyser basin, or that Steamboat may be having smaller eruptions instead of one large. Yeah, we'll see. Since most geysers do not erupt on a regular schedule, it might just reflect the randomness of geysers, Pollan said. Yellowstone sits atop a volcano that created a vast crater. That's called a caldera. That's right. Its plateau hosts the world's most diverse and expansive continental hydrothermal systems, including the multicolored springs, mud pots, and geysers for which the park is known. While the steamboat eruptions are unusual, what would be far more worrying would be the water in the hydrothermal systems drying up, which could indicate that the super hot magma deep below was making its way to the surface. Yellowstone has not had a volcanic eruption for 70,000 years. But geysers erupt all the time, so don't worry. Okay, I won't. It just sounds like Jaws, doesn't it? I don't know. Okay, we're at the end of our broadcast period for the day. But Netroots Radio, of course, broadcasts on, and we've got some live content live from our national feed that happens throughout the day, so stay tuned for breaking news. And if any of the bad breaking news is bound to happen, we will break in and have an extended panel deconstructed for you, as we've been assuring you. We are here, so stay tuned for that. And we'll, of course, meet up tomorrow for Terrytown Chowder Tuesdays in the West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. And why don't we do that? So stay tuned to Netroots Radio for the rest of the day. And we'll meet up with you tomorrow here in West Coast Cookbook and Speakeasy. Bon appetit.
Je voudrais du soleil vert, des dentelles et des théâtres, des photos de bord de mer, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je voudrais de la lumière, comme en Nouvelle-Angleterre. Je veux changer d'atmosphère, dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs sous la pluie de novembre. Tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Je voudrais du Fred Astaire, revoir un latte Goël. Je voudrais toujours te plaire dans mon jardin d'hiver. Je veux déjeuner par terre comme au long de golfe clair, t'embrasser les yeux ouverts dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ma robe à fleurs sous la pluie de novembre. Tes mains qui courent, je n'en peux plus de t'attendre. Les années passent, il est loin, là je tombe. Nul ne peut nous entendre. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum, 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 dans mon jardin d'hiver. Ba-da-da-dum-di-da-dum, 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 dans mon jardin d'hiver. Dans mon jardin d'hiver, dans mon jardin d'hiver.